the young and the restless spoilers in the aftermath of a harrowing escape that sent shockwaves through the household. The tale of Phyllis and Sharon's narrow flight from captivity quickly became the subject of hushed whispers and anxious speculation among family and friends alike. The two women, having managed to break free from the confines of a locked room, a prison of both literal and metaphorical design, returned to their home in a state of palpable panic. Their eyes, wide with fear and uncertainty, spoke of experiences too dark to fully articulate, while every step they took was a desperate attempt to reclaim the safety of familiarity. Almost immediately upon their return, Phyllis, still reeling from the ordeal, sought out Michael. In a voice trembling with a mix of indignation and betrayal, she demanded answers. "Why did you kidnap us?" she questioned, her words slicing through the tense silence like a razor's edge. Phyllis was not one to leap to conclusions without careful observation. She had always trusted her instincts, and on that fateful day, something in Michael's tone, an unfamiliar cadence or perhaps a subtle shift in the inflection of his voice, told her that something was profoundly wrong. To Phyllis, whose judgments had rarely faltered in the past, this deviation from the norm was unacceptable, and it ignited a fire of resentment that would not be easily extinguished. Meanwhile, Nick listened intently, his mind churning with questions. He found himself wondering why Michael, a man who had always been perceived as both resourceful and enigmatic, would stoop to such desperate measures. Was it a calculated move, a desperate attempt to control the narrative, or was there something else entirely at play? Nick's own inner turmoil was compounded by the realization that Phyllis's instincts were not to be trifled with. If she sensed deceit in Michael's voice, then there must be a hidden motive lurking beneath his composed exterior. Across the room, Chance had been an unwitting witness to the entire unfolding drama. Known for his keen analytical mind and an uncanny ability to read between the lines, Chance harbored his own theories about the situation. The weight of what he had heard and seen compelled him to take matters into his own hands. Without hesitation, Chance marched over to Michael, his resolve hardening with every measured step. In a dramatic display of authority, Chance swiftly handcuffed Michael and dragged him back to the very room that had once served as a holding cell for Phyllis and Sharon. The room, now dark and ominous, became the setting for an impromptu interrogation that promised to unearth secrets long buried beneath layers of subterfuge. But Michael was a man of considerable fortitude and, more importantly, a man who had mastered the art of silence in the face of relentless scrutiny. Locked away in the cold confines of the cell, Michael maintained a steely gaze and a defiant posture. His lips remained sealed, and his eyes conveyed nothing more than a subtle challenge. Unless Phyllis could present incontrovertible evidence of wrongdoing, he would not betray a single secret. His silence was not born of guilt but of a calculated strategy, one that had served him well in the past and would, he hoped, serve him well in this precarious moment. While all this turmoil was unfolding, Victor stood at a distance, his presence both commanding and unnerving. Victor, whose very name was synonymous with power and ruthless ambition, watched every twist of the drama with a masked expression of calm. Beneath that calm, however, lay a seething torrent of fear and self-preservation. Victor was well aware that the true mastermind behind the chaos was none other than himself. His hand had guided many of the clandestine operations within the family, and it was his designs that had set the stage for this catastrophic turn of events. Yet, as he observed the events with a practiced detachment, a deep-seated terror gripped him, a fear that if the truth of his orchestration were to come to light, there would be no escaping the consequences. The possibility of imprisonment loomed over him like a dark cloud, forcing him to maintain an outward silence and feign indifference to the plight of those around him. In that moment, the delicate balance between loyalty, betrayal, and the desperate quest for power teetered on a knife's edge. Phyllis's outrage, sparked by her intuition and validated by the eerie alterations in Michael's demeanor, collided headlong with Chance's unyielding determination to uncover the truth. Nick's internal struggle underscored the uncertainty that pervaded every conversation, every glance, and every whispered rumor within the household. And Victor, the architect of much of the family's inner turmoil, remained an ominous presence, a silent observer whose calculated inaction betrayed a man caught between his ambitions and the stark reality of impending retribution. The tension in the air was almost tangible as the night drew on. The holding cell, now a crucible for truths waiting to be exposed, seemed to pulse with the silent accusations of a past filled with manipulation and hidden agendas. Michael's unwavering silence, interspersed with occasional, measured glances, became a testament to his inner strength. He was a man who had weathered storms of scandal and heartbreak, and yet, faced with the current onslaught of distrust, he refused to be broken. His resolve was a quiet defiance against a system that thrived on secrets and betrayals. Phyllis, whose heart was now a battleground of hurt and disillusionment, clung to the belief that her intuition was infallible. She recounted every detail, the subtle tremor in Michael's voice, the slight pause before he answered her questions, and the coldness that had replaced the warmth she once knew. Each detail served as a puzzle piece in a larger mosaic of betrayal, one that she was determined to complete, even if it meant uncovering painful truths. For her, this was more than just an interrogation of one man's actions, it was a reckoning with a past that she had long tried to bury beneath layers of hope and denial. Chance, on the other hand, was not content with merely relying on gut feelings and half-formed suspicions. His own predictions, formed from years of observing the intricate dance of power within their family, pointed to a larger conspiracy, a narrative in which Michael's role was but one piece of a complex puzzle. The idea that someone could orchestrate such an elaborate kidnapping without leaving a trace of remorse or hesitation was as baffling as it was infuriating. Chance's determination to extract a confession from Michael was not solely about uncovering the truth, it was about restoring a semblance of order in a world that had descended into chaos. And then there was Nick, caught in the crossfire of conflicting loyalties. His questions about Michael's motives were not born of a desire to assign blame lightly, but rather from a deep-seated need to understand the intricate web of relationships that defined their existence. Every word spoken, every glance exchanged, and every moment of silence added layers to a narrative that was as compelling as it was complex. Nick's curiosity was a quiet counterpoint to the overt actions of Chance and the simmering intensity of Phyllis's accusations. As the night deepened, the tension in the holding cell reached a fever pitch. Michael's silence remained unbroken, a silent protest against an interrogation that sought to force him into submission. Phyllis, fueled by a mixture of righteous indignation and personal betrayal, paced restlessly outside the cell, her mind racing with questions and accusations. The stark fluorescent lights overhead cast long, eerie shadows on the walls. A visual reminder of the darkness that had infiltrated their once secure sanctuary. In the midst of this maelstrom of emotions, one fact became undeniable. The current state of affairs was not a mere miscommunication or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a culmination of years of secrets, hidden ambitions, and carefully orchestrated betrayals that had finally converged into a single, explosive moment. The implications were vast, threatening to unravel the very fabric of trust that held the family together. With every heartbeat, the stakes grew higher, and the future of their intertwined lives became ever more uncertain. And so, as dawn began to creep over the horizon, casting a pale light on the remnants of the night's chaos, the household was left with more questions than answers. Michael remained in the holding cell, his secrets locked behind a facade of calm determination. Phyllis, her heart heavy with the weight of her discoveries, was left to grapple with the betrayal that had shattered her world. Chance's mind raced with the possibilities of a conspiracy that might extend far beyond the current incident, while Nick pondered the true motivations behind Michael's actions. And Victor, ever the silent puppeteer, watched it all with a mixture of relief and dread, relief that the immediate crisis had passed, and dread that the revelation of his own culpability might one day come back to haunt him. In that fragile moment of uneasy calm, the stage was set for a confrontation that would redefine loyalties and redraw the lines of trust within the family. The secrets that had long been buried were now clawing their way to the surface, threatening to expose the underbelly of a legacy built on ambition, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of power. For all those involved, one thing was clear: the path to redemption and resolution would be long and fraught with peril, and only by facing the truth could they hope to rebuild what had been so callously torn apart. In a dramatic turn of events that has left everyone reeling, Michael's carefully constructed facade of innocence began to crumble under the weight of undeniable evidence and mounting pressure. Although he tried to appear blameless, it soon became clear that escaping accountability was not as easy as he had hoped. With whispers of an impending police investigation, one that could lead officers to scour the abandoned psychiatric hospital where so many dark secrets had been hidden, Michael was forced to confront the reality that every incriminating detail of his actions would soon be meticulously documented and preserved. The once quiet corridors of that long-forgotten institution now threatened to serve as the ultimate repository of evidence, ensuring that no transgression would remain unpunished. As tensions escalated, it became apparent that the mastermind behind this deadly game was on the verge of being exposed. Michael's growing terror was palpable. The thought of being cornered by a relentless investigation drove him to desperate measures. In a series of frantic phone calls and whispered pleas, he continuously sought refuge in the one person he believed could shield him from the fallout to Victor. Though Michael's pleas were fervent, they carried an undercurrent of irony, for it was Victor himself who had been orchestrating the chaos from behind the scenes. Every plea for help, every desperate call in the dead of night, only deepened the grim realization that Michael was ensnared in a web of betrayal of his own making, with Victor's sinister influence lurking at its core. Meanwhile, in the aftermath of their harrowing ordeal, Phyllis and Sharon found themselves in a precarious state of both physical and emotional exhaustion. Their narrow escape had left them shaken to the core, and the authorities deemed it necessary to transport them to the abandoned psychiatric hospital. Not as a place of punishment, but as a facility to conduct a comprehensive examination of their mental and physical health. Under the stark fluorescent lights of this desolate institution, both women underwent a battery of tests aimed at re-evaluating every facet of their well-being. The process, though invasive and emotionally draining, was seen as a crucial step in ensuring that they could recover fully from the trauma they had endured. Throughout this tumultuous chapter, one figure remained steadfastly at their side, Nick. Ever the compassionate guardian, Nick accompanied Phyllis and Sharon every step of the way, offering support, reassurance, and a quiet strength that belied the chaos swirling around them. His presence became a symbol of hope amid the despair, a tangible reminder that even in the darkest moments, human kindness and solidarity could still prevail. For Nick, the greatest solace was knowing that both women, once divided by bitterness and hurt, had begun to heal. In time, the animosity that had once defined their interactions had given way to a cautious camaraderie, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit when nurtured by genuine care. The significance of Nick's unwavering commitment cannot be overstated. As Phyllis and Sharon gradually emerged from their examinations with renewed clarity and a tentative sense of safety, Nick found himself experiencing a rare moment of true happiness. It was as though the storm that had once torn them apart had finally subsided, allowing the once fractured relationships to mend in unexpected ways. The joy of witnessing Phyllis and Sharon no longer harboring hatred, a hatred that had been fueled by betrayal and fear, was the reward for his steadfast loyalty. In their newfound peace, Nick saw not just a personal victory, but the promise of a future where wounds could heal and the scars of the past might eventually fade into distant memories. Yet, the fallout from these intertwined dramas was far from over. Behind the closed doors of the psychiatric hospital and in the quiet desperation of Michael's pleas lay a tension that threatened to unravel the fragile threads of stability they had fought so hard to secure. Michael's reluctant admissions, forced by the looming threat of a full-scale police search, were a harbinger of the inevitable reckoning that awaited him. His every word, spoken under the weight of fear and regret, chipped away at the carefully constructed image of innocence he had so desperately clung to. The truth was emerging, and with it, the promise of justice for the countless lives affected by the deadly game orchestrated by a mastermind who had long hidden behind a veneer of respectability. Victor, ever the silent puppeteer, continued to watch the unfolding events with a detached yet calculating gaze. His involvement, though hidden from the public eye, was the linchpin of the entire saga, a reminder that behind every act of treachery and every desperate plea lay a carefully orchestrated design. Victor's motivations, shrouded in layers of ambition and a cold, calculating desire for power, had inadvertently set the stage for this explosive confrontation. As Michael's confessions grew more damning and the abandoned hospital's secrets began to emerge, the inevitable truth loomed large. The mastermind behind the deadly game would soon be unmasked, and no amount of pleading or manipulation would be enough to alter the course of fate. In this crucible of chaos and revelation, every character was forced to reckon with the consequences of their choices. Michael, once so adept at hiding behind a facade of innocence, now found himself at the mercy of forces greater than his own. Phyllis and Sharon, whose ordeal had begun as a nightmare of captivity and betrayal, were slowly reclaiming their lives under the careful stewardship of Nick's unwavering support. And Victor, whose influence had sown the seeds of destruction, now faced the silent, inevitable march of justice, a justice that would not allow the sins of the past to go unpunished. As the dust settled and a tentative calm began to replace the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged from the ruins of betrayal. The police, armed with the evidence lurking in every shadow of the abandoned hospital, prepared to bring to light the truth that had been so meticulously hidden. The deadly game, with its intricate web of lies and manipulation, was on the verge of collapse. The person responsible for orchestrating this nightmare, whose identity had been concealed behind layers of deception, would finally be exposed, ensuring that the cycle of treachery and fear would be brought to an end. For Nick, the culmination of these events was bittersweet. His heart, once heavy with the weight of sorrow and regret, now swelled with a cautious optimism. The safety and well-being of Phyllis and Sharon, along with the newfound reconciliation between those who had once been bitter adversaries, symbolized a hard-won victory. A victory over the forces of hatred and manipulation that had so long threatened to tear them apart. In that moment, Nick felt as if he had witnessed a miracle, the transformation of a broken system into one where hope and unity could once again flourish. Ultimately, the series of events that had rocked their world, Michael's forced confession, the looming threat of an all-encompassing investigation, the exposure of a ruthless mastermind, and the healing of deeply wounded souls, served as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. In the face of overwhelming adversity, the bonds of family and loyalty had been tested, and though scarred, they had not been broken. The legacy of those dark days would forever serve as a testament to the fact that even the most intricate games of deception cannot withstand the unyielding light of truth and justice.